No, I was just trying to figure out the lights here.
How do we turn this one on?
That's on the remote behind Emma's head.
Yeah, Emma.
Yeah, it's gonna get dark. I don't know if they'll be able to see you. Top right.
Gimme.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I can see the screen
Now
now.
we're gonna look at your
It still looks fine,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I can't tell if anyone else can see that I'm live. Hello, everybody. If you're there, there? Okay, good. All right, I understand we're live. Very strange live this week. I'm talking to you from an undisclosed location. No, really, a hospital in Portland where my grandniece has been in the hospital for 8 days today, 9 days today, 9 days today.
1 second, okay? I'll be right back.
And yesterday morning, I felt like my sister, her grandmother, was getting at loose ends. And so I texted her and said, listen, if I come to Portland, will you promise me that you will leave the hospital and take a break and sleep in a hotel and eat at a table and walk around outside and just not be in the hospital for a while? And she promised me that she would. So made a reservation, came to Portland, and she has remained true to her word. She has been out enjoying herself. So that's great because there's still lots to do here. We're hopeful that my grandniece is going to be able to go home maybe in the Saturday time frame. Yes. I have 2 grandnieces on the hospital bed right over there. And yes, it is a delay. I understand from Uncle Philip when he listens from upstairs that it is quite a delay from when he hears me say it in the house. So, yes. So anyway, speaking of Uncle Philip, AKA my husband, he was flying home from Mexico today, and because of weather in Dallas, got diverted to Houston. So I'm up here in Portland. He has been diverted to Houston, and he's still in Houston, I can see. Fortunately, our daughter lives with us, so she's able to take care of the dogs. Anyway, you just never know. You just never know. All right, so first of all, and hold on, let me send some links to some people. Bear with me just a moment. How are y'all? Somebody say how you're doing. Let's see, there we go.
Okay.
All right. There we go. I'll get a few things going here. So what is happening here in the room is they're doing an ultrasound over there on my grandniece because they're going to see they're seeing how she's doing. So that's good.
Oh yeah, sorry, like it's hard not to get it on your shirt. We try our best.
All right.
It gets everywhere.
All right. So what has happened at the farm this week? So my work day yesterday got a little curtailed because I just ran out there, tended to the chickens. I actually threw 2 bags of compost on every one of the fruit trees. And then I came home, took a shower, ran to the airport. So I didn't get a whole lot done. But what are you laughing at?
I'll tell you when you're done.
I have my 2 nieces over there.
Hi.
Hi. And then I have my 2 grandnieces over there. Hi. So anyway, so in the orchard, what I'm working on right now is I just want to make the orchard better. I haven't had any irrigation over there, and so what I'm doing is running irrigation to each tree, and I've done it to 3 of them so far. 2 of them so far. Then I'm putting compost around the base of each tree. Then I'm going to be doing, so it'll be compost, irrigation, and then covered up with landscape cloth. And so that'll make the trees easier to mow around because the stuff won't grow right up next to them. And then the irrigation, it made such a big difference in the garden this year that I'm hoping it makes just as big a difference in the orchard in the coming year. So that's what I'm hoping for. So I've been working on improving the orchard. The weather is getting cooler this afternoon in Dallas. I understand that in some places it reached 100 degrees, and then a front came through and everything was in the mid 70s. So I'm very happy about that. And so next I'll be working on finishing the orchard irrigation. The naked part of the in-ground garden I'm going to be covering up with wood chips. And it just occurred to me the other day that it's really time for me to start nailing down exactly things that need to be wrapped up at the farm before I have my surgery, because we're coming up on 3 months out from me having surgery, a big surgery, and so I need to, for instance, I was like, oh, I need to fill up these beds with crops, everything, but I really need to fill it up with crops and also get those crops harvested and cleaned up before my surgery. So it's really time to start thinking about that. Another thing that I want to do is early on, the first raised bed that I built, I put an asparagus bed in it. It's over in the orchard area, and I am going to be knocking that down. I'm going to take the tractor bucket and I'm just going to knock it down. And that leads me to my subject for tonight, and that is failure. I want to talk about failure. So this asparagus bed, it looks terrible. First of all, it's the first raised bed that I built, and it's falling apart. I didn't do a good job. I didn't know what I was doing. And there's weeds all in it. It's just like this mountain of weeds in my orchard. It looks terrible. It's not doing what it's supposed to do, and it's time just to knock it down. So it would be easy to think that orchard, that asparagus bed was a complete waste of time. But you know what? It wasn't, because I had to get through building the first bed in order to get to building better beds. And then also I had to get to building better beds to realize that I don't even like building beds. I want to have Vigo beds. So, and also, like, my in-ground garden is a perfect example of this. The first row of the in-ground garden, the first batch of blackberry plants that I planted, they are where weeds can grow all around them, and it's a pain in the neck. So then now, the next, asparagus is not disgusting. The next 2 rows, they're irrigated, and they're covered with landscape cloth. And I will be just cutting an X in the landscape cloth and planting the blackberry bush right into the landscape cloth. And so there's much less opportunity for weeds to grow. And so every time I do something, it gets better and better. And it's the same with you. I mean, it's hard for me to call that first row a failure, because if I didn't have that, then I wouldn't have known what to do better. Everything I do, I learn something from, and then I know what to do better next time. So it's really important to reframe failure as a learning tool. I would never have learned how to grow blackberries better if I didn't grow them badly. So that's just a fact. I started listening today. I didn't finish yet. I will finish it. To a book called Chasing Failure by Ryan Leake. Now, Ryan is actually one of our teaching pastors at our church. In the foreword of it, he said, failure is a gift. Actually, he didn't say it. The guy that wrote the foreword said it. Failure is a gift if you don't give up and you're willing to learn, improve, and grow. Failure serves as a defining moment. So if I wasn't willing to fail, if I wasn't willing to have a dead out in the bee yard, if I wasn't willing for the asparagus bed to need to be knocked down, have weeds, if you're not willing to fail, you're never gonna learn. You can't be afraid to fail. You just can't. I tell people all the time, I don't know what I'm doing most of the time, and that's the truth. Something that I always think, when I'm trying to accomplish something, I'm like, oh, well, I can't do that. For instance, at my farm, I don't live there, and so that's a disadvantage. It would be better, it would be easier in some ways if I lived there. So my time there is so much limited. Like I can't run out and do something on a work morning because it would take me half an hour to drive there and then 45 minutes to drive to the farm. Now I have done it sometimes depending on my schedule and how urgent it is. So it would be easier if I lived there. But the fact is I don't. So then what could I do? You know, I can't do this, but I could do this. And I just think it's important to frame things. And what could you do? In this book that I'm listening to, Chasing Failure, I'll put a link to it in the description. He quoted the study that they did with people jumping out of airplanes. And what they found was if they had people jump out of airplanes regularly, when they first start jumping out of airplanes, their anxiety level, of course, was through the roof at jumping out of an airplane. But as they did it more and more, it became to where their fear of jumping out of an airplane, the anxiety of jumping out of an airplane, was no higher than the level of anxiety one might normally have at being late to work. So you expose yourself to it more, and it becomes less and less of a big deal. My niece, over there in the bed right there, she's been having to have shots that make her very, very anxious. Fortunately, starting tonight, those get to be switched to oral meds, and we're very happy about that. But I can't help but think that over time, being exposed to those shots, they eventually would become less and less of a big deal. Like I've been having allergy shots, 5 of them at a time, for 5 years. And those shots are so not a big deal anymore, even though they were far from my favorite thing when they started. So just continuing to expose yourself to failure is going to make it less of a big deal. I'm sitting here monitoring messages. I can't remember if I mentioned that my husband's flight got diverted to Houston tonight, so he may be in Houston for the night. We don't even know yet. Anyway, so where is something that you need to fail? Is there something that you're currently doing where you're afraid to fail? All right. All right, there. All right. What about anyone in the room who's doing something where you're afraid to fail? We have a couple of people here about to start school. I know you're not afraid and you're not afraid that you're going to fail school.
I'm excited to start.
Yeah?
That's good. I'm out of here to do that.
So anyway, if you're watching, you might want to think about, is there something where you're afraid to fail? And is there something that you could just do it anyway? I used to have discussions with my daughter about when you're feeling fear, is it a thing where it's saying not to do it, where your fear is saying that it's something that you shouldn't do it? Or is your fear saying that it's something where you should feel the fear and do it anyway? And that's just a case of discernment, and it's something only you know, but it's something that you should consider. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up early tonight because I am here in a hospital room and it's a little weird. But as you go through your week, think about, are you in a situation where you should feel the fear and do it anyway? And I encourage you to just do it anyway. So anyway, thank you for joining me on this very weird YouTube Live. And I will see you next week at 7 o'clock Texas time. All right. Bye, y'all.